Hey guys, in this video I'm going to show you how you can download and install and use Visual Studio Code on your Windows 11 operating system. So let's start with the installation first. So first of all, open your favorite browser and search for Visual Studio Code. And the first link which will appear here will be code.visualstudio.com. So I'm going to click on this link. And once you are on this website, you will be able to see this download for Windows option here, or you will be able to see this download button, right? And when you click on this arrow, you will be able to see the download options for Mac OS, Windows and Linux also. So we just need to click on this download for Windows button, which is going to start the download of this VSCode user setup.exe file. It's around 76 megabyte at the time of making this video. So just wait for the download to complete. And once the download of this exe file is finished, just click on this file, and I'm going to minimize this browser. So first of all, you will see this license terms and agreement window. So if you agree with those license terms and conditions, just click on this I accept the agreement radio button and then click on next. This will be the default location where Visual Studio Code will be installed on your Windows 11 operating system. So if you don't have the good reason to change this location, just leave it as default. Otherwise, you can click on this browse button and then select the location where you want to install Visual Studio Code. I'm going to just click on the next button. Now on this next window, you will see select start menu folder. Just leave it as default, which is Visual Studio Code. And then you can also check this checkbox which says don't create a startup menu folder. And when you check this, it's not going to create a startup menu folder. But I want to create it, so I will leave it as default and then click on next. And here on the next window, you will be asked to select the additional tasks. So here I want to create the desktop icon, so I'm going to check this checkbox. Also add open with code, I want to add this option also, and I want to add this option also which says add open with code action to Windows Explorer directory context menu. I want that also, right? So I'm going to check all these checkboxes and then click on next, and then you will see the summary here. Just click on install, which is going to start the installation of Visual Studio Code. At this point, you just need to wait until this progress bar reaches to the 100% mark. And once that's done, you will be able to see this message completing the Visual Studio Code setup. Also, you can see the Visual Studio Code shortcut has been created on my desktop. So at this point, just leave this checkbox as checked, which is going to launch Visual Studio Code on your Windows 11 operating system. Just click on finish and it's going to launch Visual Studio Code. So as you can see, for the first time when you start Visual Studio Code, you have the option to select few things. You can choose which theme you want for your Visual Studio Code. So I'm going to leave it as dark mode. Otherwise, you can also choose the light theme and then high contrast theme, and there are multiple themes available for Visual Studio Code. So at this point, your Visual Studio installation is pretty much finished. But let me show you a few more things about Visual Studio Code, and let me also show you how you can use Visual Studio Code for developing different programming languages. So first of all, when I open the command prompt by just clicking on the search icon and then just type CMD, which is going to open the command prompt. And in here, when you type code and then press enter, it's going to open Visual Studio Code on your Windows 11 operating system. So you can open Visual Studio Code from your command prompt from any folder wherever you want, right? Now, one more thing which you can do with your Visual Studio Code. So let's say I'm going to create a new folder on my desktop. You can create this folder anywhere you want. And then I'm going to name it as, let's say, sample folder. And I want to open this folder using the command prompt, right? So I'm going to navigate to this folder using the command prompt. Let's say cd, and then the folder is on my desktop, right? So I'm going to just cd to my desktop. And then here, I just need to cd once again to my sample folder, right? And when you type code space dot here, it's going to open Visual Studio Code. So let me just press enter here. So what it's going to do is it's going to open Visual Studio Code, and this folder will be opened right in the Explorer. Here for the first time you just need to click on the yes I trust the author button, and you can see Visual Studio has opened the sample folder on my Visual Studio Code editor, right? Now in here I can create files using this button, which is for creating the files. I can create the folder inside this sample folder. I can also create files using this file option, and I can also open some folder using this file option, right? So let me create a very simple file here. So I can right click also and then click on new file here, and then I can just type hello.js here, which is going to create the hello.js or JavaScript file. Now Visual Studio Code is smart enough to understand that we have created a JavaScript file, so you will be able to see this language here, which is automatically selected for us, which is JavaScript, and Visual Studio comes with the support of JavaScript by default. So when you type some JavaScript code here, so const x is equal to, let's say, hello world here, right? So Visual Studio Code is going to understand that you are writing the JavaScript code, and it's going to provide you the IntelliSense for JavaScript. So let's say I want to print this value of x, and when I press CON, for example, it's going to show me the IntelliSense, what I'm trying to write, right? So I can select console from here and then log. So you can see I have multiple options which I can call on the console, right? So I want to just use a log here, and then I'm going to just print the value of x. So as you can see, Visual Studio Code comes with the support of JavaScript and many other languages by default, so you don't even need to install any extra support for some languages, right? You can press Ctrl S to save your code, or you can just go to the file option and then click on save, but Ctrl S is easier to do, right? Right now you can see that this font size is very small. Let's say I want to increase the font size of all the widgets on my Visual Studio Code. I just need to press Ctrl and then plus option. Okay, so just press Ctrl and plus, which is going to increase the font, size of all the widgets on your Visual Studio Code. And then once again, when you press Ctrl plus again, you can see the font size of all the widgets is once again increased. You can also say that we are doing the zoom option on Visual Studio Code. In order to reduce the font size, you can press Ctrl and then minus or hyphen option on your Windows 11. So Ctrl and hyphen, which is going to reduce the font size. So I think this font size is okay for now for this video demonstration purposes. Now when you want to run this code, so how you can run this code, you have a few options. If you are a fan of terminal or command prompt, so you want to run your apps using the command prompt, Visual Studio comes with the integrated terminal, which you can use using this option, which is called terminal. So just click on terminal and then click on new terminal, or you can press this option. So on different keyboards you will see that this option changes, right? So I have a German keyboard, so I have this Control Shift O umlaut, but on your keyboard, let's say for US, you will see the different option here, right? So just click on new terminal here, which is going to open the command prompt on the same folder in which you are working right now. So you can see I'm working in the sample folder. Here is the sample folder, and right now I am inside the sample folder in the command prompt, right? So from here, I can run my code. So let's say I want to run this code using Node.js. I can just write node here and then the name of the file, which is hello.js. And you can also see that Visual Studio Code has opened the PowerShell editor for us. You can see Windows PowerShell. So it's same like opening the PowerShell on your Windows 11 operating system. So when you just type PowerShell here, you can open PowerShell here on your Windows 11 operating system. So it's similar to using PowerShell on your Visual Studio Code terminal. Now let's say you want to use different terminals. So Windows comes with PowerShell and the command prompt, right? So right now you can see PowerShell terminal is open. If you want to change it to command prompt, you just need to click on this small arrow here. You can see this arrow and you can select which type of terminal you want. So I'm going to choose the command prompt from here. Then it's going to open the command prompt. So you can see we have opened multiple terminals and the list of all the terminals is going to appear on the left hand side. So on the first terminal, I have PowerShell opened. On the second terminal, which is in the same folder, I have command prompt opened. I can also open, let's say, JavaScript debug terminal, and it's going to open the JavaScript debug terminal for us, which is essentially the PowerShell terminal in my case, right? You can also split your terminal. So you can see you have the option to split the terminal. So you can see when you just hover over the split terminal option here, you can select which terminal you want to split. So let's say I want to split the command prompt terminal. You can see there are two command prompt terminals which are open, and you will be able to see all these options here. You can also close the terminal by just clicking on this delete icon here, which is going to delete the terminal, right? So if you want to delete this PowerShell terminal, you can just click on the delete icon on the PowerShell option. So this was a brief introduction about terminal. If you want to customize and configure more on your terminal, you have all these options which you can use here. So just play with all these options and see what they can do. You also have this search option here. So let's say I want to search something on Visual Studio Code. I can just press Ctrl F keys, and then it's going to show me this find option here, and then I can find something. Let's say I want to search for all the logs, right? So I can just write log here, and then you can see this log is highlighted here, right? You can also replace this. So let's say I want to replace this log with something else. So let's say I want to replace this by dir. So I can do this, and then I can just click on this option, which is going to replace all the occurrence of log in the current file, or I can just select this option, which is going to replace the first found item. So whatever item is highlighted here, it's going to replace that only. So you can see right now 3 of 3 is highlighted. I can just click on this arrow button and see where else this log appears on my file. Right now 1 of 3 occurrence is highlighted, which is this one. I can click on this button, which is going to replace this highlighted log by dir. If I press on this option, it's going to replace all the occurrences of log. So you can see it's done that. So this is how you can find and replace in your Visual Studio Code editor. Now, if you want to search in all the files inside your project folder, you have this search option. So let's say I have 10 JavaScript files inside this sample folder. Then you can just click on this option, which can be used as a global search inside your project folder. So let's say I want to just search for logs. You can see I only have one file inside this sample folder, so it has found all the occurrences of log. But if my folder contains multiple JavaScript files, Then also it's going to show me the list of all the occurrences of log in my project folder in all the files. And here also I can replace log by any other word or any other options here. So this is for the global search. You have the explorer here, which is going to show you all the project files. Then you have the search option. Then the third option here is for the source control. So let's say you have Git installed or any other version control tool installed. Visual Studio Code is going to detect that tool and it's going to show you the changed file, or if you make some changes in your code, it's going to show you all the options related to the version control in this window, right? So you can commit your source code, you can push your source code, you can pull the source code from GitHub or any other repository in the source control section, right? Now the next option here is the run and debug option, right? So you can see run and debug. So you have the option to debug your code using Visual Studio Code. So as I said, Visual Studio Code comes with support of some languages, but if it doesn't come with the inherent support for some language, you can install the support for that language also using packages and other options. So here you can see that if I want to debug this JavaScript file, I have the option to click on this run and debug button, which is going to create this launch JSON file, which is the file basically we use to provide the debug configuration to our project, right? And from the next time when you click on the debug button here, it's going to debug your code, and you can just use this debugger to debug your code. You can see I have created a breakpoint here, here, here. You will be able to see all the breakpoints in the breakpoints section. If you want to remove all the breakpoints, you can click on this button which says remove all breakpoints, or you can deactivate the breakpoints also from here. So you can have an overview of all your breakpoints in all your files in your project using this breakpoints overview. Now you also have this extensions option here. So when you click on the extensions option, you can see if Visual Studio Code doesn't come with the support of any language, then it's going to provide you the option to download the extension for that language. So let's say I want to have the support for the Python language, which is the most popular language which we can develop on our Visual Studio Code. I can search for Python here. So I can just write Python here, and it's going to search all the extensions related to Python which are popular. You can see how many downloads were done for that package. You can see 48 million for Python, which is from Microsoft. So when I click on this, I can have more information about this package. Let me just press Control-, so you will be able to see this overview in a better way. Here you can see who has developed this extension. You can see Microsoft, and if you see Microsoft here, that means it's developed by Microsoft for you, right? And you can trust it. You can also see the number of downloads for this extension. You can click on the install button to install this extension, and also when you scroll down, you will be able to see how you can use this extension. Let's say I want to just search for the extensions for Java, and it's going to show me all the extensions related to Java here, right? So you can search for all the extensions and then install these extensions, which is going to help you to develop your code in a better way. Also, you have this option for the account section. So you can click on this turn on settings sync. So you can just log in to your Visual Studio Code, and then when you use your Visual Studio Code on any other computer, and when you log in with the same Visual Studio Code account, your settings will be imported in your Visual Studio Code on the different computer also. You also have this settings option, and when you click on the settings option, you have this settings option here, and you can change many settings related to Visual Studio Code. So you can see you have the main settings option, which is going to open this kind of window, and here you can change the settings related to text editor, workbench, window, features, application, security, and extensions, right? So you can see you can change the settings related to let's say text editor using this text editor option, and when you scroll down you will be able to see all the options for the settings. This is all about the Visual Studio Code window. You also have the run option, so it also provides the run options. Let's say I want to just start the debugging of my JavaScript code. I can do that using the start debugging button. I also have the go button, which is going to just redirect me to the definition, declaration, type definition of a particular code which I have highlighted. I can also click on view option, and then I have these more options here, and then the selection option, edit option, which is like just cut, copy, paste, and find, replace related settings. And if you want to update your Visual Studio Code, you can just click on check for updates on the help section, and you can just update your Visual Studio Code. So let me close this window from here and close this window from here. So let's say in my documents folder, I have this Java apps folder, which already contains some Java file and the compiled version of that file. So when you are inside a project folder, on your folder explorer, you can right click here on your Windows 11 operating system, and then click on show more options here, which is going to show you more options. And you can see this option, which is open with code. So when you click on open with code, it's going to open this folder on your Visual Studio Code, right? So now I can develop Java using my Visual Studio Code, right? And when I open some folder and the support for that language is not installed on my Visual Studio Code, Visual Studio Code always provides me these kind of information or warning which says, do you want to install the recommended extensions for Java, right? So if I choose to install all the recommended extensions which are recommended by Visual Studio Code for us, it's going to just install the extensions related to Java, and then I can easily use Java on my Visual Studio Code, and I can develop Java code on my Visual Studio Code. So this was a very brief introduction about how you can install Visual Studio Code and how you can use a Visual Studio Code on your Windows 11 operating system. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next video.